Before you scroll away, I want you to stop for a moment, because you may have been asking God for a sign without realizing that the answer could arrive in a very ordinary moment like this one. Maybe you've been standing at a crossroads, unsure whether to stay where you are or finally make a change. Maybe you've been asking for clarity about your future, your career, your family, your relationships, or a decision you've been afraid to make. And because you haven't received a clear answer, you've started believing that heaven is silent. But silence does not always mean nothing is happening. Sometimes God is teaching you how to recognize guidance without needing everything to be obvious. Archangel Michael's message today is about discernment, because there is a difference between a sign that brings you closer to truth and a feeling that simply comes from fear. Fear can make you rush. Fear can make you assume the worst. Fear can make you believe that if you don't make a decision immediately, everything will fall apart. But wisdom doesn't usually scream. Wisdom often becomes clear when you become quiet enough to hear it. You've been surrounded by so much noise that you may have forgotten what peace feels like. Notifications, opinions, expectations, responsibilities, endless information, and the constant pressure to keep moving can make it difficult to hear your own thoughts, let alone your prayers. Perhaps that's why you have felt restless. Maybe your heart isn't asking for more information. Maybe it is asking for silence. Michael has traditionally been associated with courage, protection, and truth. And the message connected to that symbolism today is this: don't make permanent decisions from temporary emotions. If you're angry, pause. If you're terrified, breathe. If you're desperate, wait until your mind becomes clearer. You don't have to react simply because something demands an immediate response. Some decisions become easier when you give yourself permission to step away from the pressure. Think about how many times you've made a decision because you were afraid of losing someone, afraid of missing an opportunity, or afraid of what people would think. And later you wished you had waited. This is why discernment matters. Not every opportunity is meant for you simply because it is available. Not every person who wants access to your life deserves it. Not every thought that enters your mind deserves belief. And not every uncomfortable feeling means something bad is about to happen. Sometimes you're simply tired. Sometimes you're overwhelmed. Sometimes you need rest before you need answers. This is important because you may have been interpreting exhaustion as a spiritual warning when your body was simply asking you to slow down. Faith and wisdom work together. Pray, but also think. Trust God, but also use the understanding you've been given. Ask for guidance, but don't ignore obvious reality. If something repeatedly produces confusion, fear, and chaos, don't romanticize it simply because you desperately want it to work. If something consistently produces honesty, peace, growth, and healthy responsibility, pay attention to that too. Your next step doesn't need to be dramatic. Maybe it's finally having an honest conversation. Maybe it's applying for something you've been afraid to pursue. Maybe it's ending a habit that has been quietly damaging your confidence. Maybe it's simply giving yourself permission to rest without feeling guilty. You may be waiting for a huge sign, but sometimes direction arrives through small decisions that slowly change the path of your life. One decision to stop procrastinating. One decision to stop contacting someone who repeatedly hurts you. One decision to start taking your goals seriously. One decision to pray before reacting. One decision to believe that your future deserves more attention than your past. Those choices may look insignificant today, but they can become the foundation of a completely different life. And there is something else Michael wants you to remember. You don't have to be certain to be courageous. Courage is moving forward while admitting that you don't know everything. You can say, I don't know exactly how this will work, but I'm willing to take the next right step. That is faith with wisdom. You are not being asked to see 10 years into the future. You are being asked to handle today faithfully. Maybe you're worried about your finances. Focus on today's responsible decision. Maybe you're worried about your career. Improve one skill. Maybe you're worried about your relationships. Communicate honestly. Maybe you're worried about your future. Build something today that your future self will thank you for. Stop demanding that tomorrow answer questions that only today's actions can solve. And if you've been feeling like everyone else is moving faster than you, remember that speed is not the same as direction. Someone can move quickly and still be going the wrong way. Someone can appear successful and still feel completely lost. Your goal isn't to move faster than everyone else. Your goal is to move in the right direction. So don't rush because someone else is ahead. Don't choose a relationship simply because you're afraid of being alone. Don't accept an opportunity simply because you're afraid another one won't come. Don't abandon your values because you're afraid of being rejected. Let your decisions come from conviction instead of panic. And if you make a mistake, don't believe that one wrong step means your entire journey is ruined. You can correct your direction. You can learn. You can begin again. God is not limited by the mistakes you made yesterday. Your future is not canceled because you once made the wrong decision. You are still capable of growth. You are still capable of becoming wiser. You are still capable of building something meaningful. Now think about the decision that has been sitting in the back of your mind. You know exactly what it is. Maybe you've been avoiding it because you're afraid of what happens afterward. Don't force an answer right now. Instead, ask God for 3 things: wisdom to recognize what is true, courage to act on what you know, and peace when you cannot control the outcome. Then take a slow breath and repeat this prayer. God, clear my mind and guide my decisions. Archangel Michael, strengthen my courage and protect me from fear, confusion, and deception. Help me recognize what is true, release what is not meant for me, and take the next step with faith and wisdom. Amen. Let that prayer settle. You don't need to chase a sign after this. Pay attention to what brings you closer to truth, responsibility, peace, and God. Pay attention to what consistently pulls you toward fear, dishonesty, obsession, and chaos. Discernment isn't about being suspicious of everything. It's about becoming wise enough to recognize what deserves your trust. And if this message reached you at a moment when you needed direction, comment, "Guide my steps." Let that be your simple prayer today. If you believe God is leading you even when you cannot see the entire path, write Amen and share this message with someone who is facing a difficult decision and needs clarity. If you want more daily messages about faith, Archangel Michael, prayer, courage, protection, and divine guidance, follow this page and stay connected. Before you leave, remember this. You don't need a dramatic miracle to begin moving in the right direction. Sometimes the miracle is the wisdom to stop making the same mistake. Sometimes the blessing is the courage to finally say no. Sometimes the answer is the peace you feel after releasing something that was never meant to stay. And sometimes the sign you've been waiting for is simply the realization that you are ready to live differently. May God give you clarity when your mind is crowded, patience when the answer is delayed, courage when the next step feels frightening, and wisdom when 2 paths look similar. May your decisions be guided by truth rather than pressure, and may your heart remain peaceful even when the future is uncertain. And may the example of Archangel Michael remind you to stand firmly in truth, protect your mind, and move forward with courage. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to control everything. You simply have to take the next right step. And sometimes that one step is all the sign you need.